So, this is part A of the KHOODEELAAR television channel being broadcast on the internet under the banner of BABY Angel Geronimo Editions. This is part A at 0710 hours GMT on Sunday, 17th of September 2023. Now, this is the edition that actually continues the contextual reference, the factual reference, or references to that part of India which is the colonialist part of India that is dominating the colonized majority of India. Tata Steel, for most of the decades since the 1940s, Tata and Birla were the two main conglomerates that looted India, the ordinary people of India. And because of this stupidity and incompetence of the so-called British leaders, Tata has been allowed to fleece British workers. But there is a timidity in the attitude of British so-called politicians like the corrupt son of the corrupt Neil Kinnock, Stephen Kinnock. Stephen Kinnock is supposed to be a member of parliament for the area that Tata Steel is fleecing in Wales. And according to the report in the Morning Star, 5 million pounds being invested, public money, into Tata investment could cost 3,000 jobs, mostly the Welsh people. This is the continuation. This has been going on for too long. And nobody, including Stephen Kinnock, nobody actually says or has the audacity or the kind of courage to tell the truth about how Tata Steel has been allowed to fleece British workers and British economy. So despite the fact that the Communist Morning Star is running the weekend edition headline that 500 million Tata investment package could cost 3,000 jobs. Despite that, it's not running in the main running orders in the even the Guardian. Well, the Guardian would not, because the Guardian has been corruptly complicit with the crooked Indian colonialists for decades. And the Morning Star splash on the weekend edition is Tories turned their backs on steel workers. That's not true. The Communist Morning Star, so-called edited by the stupid boy, Paco Chaco, is ignorant. Ignorant and corrupt. Is probably compromised, morally compromised by his origin, somewhere in the subcontinent, part origin. The byline is being given to somebody described as Wales reporter and named as David Nicholson. But this Nicholson, Wales reporter, is not a match to the challenge that is facing thousands of Welsh workers. Now, when Sajid Javid, the stupid one, was appointed to the cabinet by the cons after the 2010 general election, stupid Javid fucked up the steel workers' kind of priorities. And he couldn't answer. He was running away from questions that are put to him. Literally, he was running away. And on page 2, we've got one so called breaking story about the crook. The crooked mayor, Glanville. So, where is the item? It says the Hackney mayor resigns amid scandal. And it doesn't give the name of the reporter, it says our news desk. Hackney Mayor Philip Glanville quit yesterday after he was exposed for lying in public office over his association with the disgraced former councillor who had been arrested for possessing images of child abuse. Glanville had been under pressure to resign after claiming he had no contact with Tom Dury. I'll read that again. Glanville had been under pressure to resign after claiming he had no contact with Tom Dewey, not Dury, as I mistakenly read, who was his flatmate since learning of his arrest for child sex offences. But his reputation lay in tatters after the Morning Star published a photo of him partying with Dewey, a rising figure on labour's right. Despite being informed of his arrest hours before, Glanville initially apologized for an error of judgment after the photo showed him taking a selfie at a Eurovision bash, but has now tendered his resignation. In a letter to Don Carter MacDonald, Hackney Council's acting chief executive, the Labour mayor highlighted the need to acknowledge, accept, and own my mistakes. He said that given the events of the past few weeks, he is tendering his resignation with effect from Friday, September the 22nd. Hackney Labour source told the Morning Star. Sadly, Phil Glanville was the author of his own political demise. He made a terrific error of judgment by his own admission and then publicly lied, undermining his credibility with the party members. I will come to that phrase, credibility with party members. Fuck the party members. Fuck them. This episode demonstrates the willingness of the labor machine to throw its own people overboard, but it will almost certainly persist in seeking to silence those who raise safeguarding concerns and questions of who knew what, when, and what action they took. Members of the left of the party will, well, members on the left will continue to campaign for an independent public inquiry into this awful affair. Accepting his resignation, Ms. Carter MacDonald said a mayoral election is likely to take place in the coming weeks. And I'll provide more information as soon as I am able to. Fuck the mayoral election. Now, this is the first resignation of an elected mayor in London since the crook Tony Blair foisted this corrupt post on the British political system more than 20 years ago. And the fact that we describe uniquely, world exclusively, uniquely we describe, and we have been describing the corrupt post, the corrupting post, and the corrupt post holder. This is how we describe. How is it that one incident of lying, or a couple of incidents of lying by Glanville, has persuaded him that he must resign, whereas next door in Tower Hamlets, next door to Hackney that is, Lutfur Rahman has been a habitual liar for years, and nobody has asked for Lutfur Rahman to resign, not at least in Tower Hamlets, not in the Labour Party. Well, he's not a member of the Labour Party, but the Labour Party does exist on the record. So, what is the explanation? The connection between the resignation by the parasite Glanville and the so called left in the Labour Party in Hackney is not very difficult to find. It is the connection of Diane Abbott. Because Diane Abbott put everything she had into making sure that Philip Glanville was exposed for lying and that the penalty was being paid by not only him but also by, as the Morning Star keeps saying, Tom Dewey, a rising star on the Labour right. How can those people be called rising star? These are criminals. The child sex offender criminal being described as a rising star on the right. And nobody is asking for Starmer to resign on this evidence. If this is what Starmer has got as his supporters, then what chance is there that there will be any shred of morality or ethics or accountability if and when a Starmer fronted regime gets underway in the United Kingdom following a election? We say that this evidence of Phil Glanville being caught lying and being forced to resign shows that the corrupt mayor post should be scrapped, not an election held in Hackney, but a corrupt mayor post should be scrapped. Let's check if the Guardian is catching up with Glanville's resignation. Can you believe it? All these stories that are appearing as the result on the first page of the search on Google, there is no fucking sign of the Guardian. Fuck the Guardian. Philip Glanville has today resigned as mayor of Hackney. Interim chief executive of Hackney Council, Don Carter MacDonald, said today, I have accepted the resignation of the mayor of Hackney. Philip Glanville, the mayor's last day of office, will be Friday, 22nd of September. And this is Hackney Council's website. The mayor's last day of office will be Friday, 22nd of September 2023. I want to take this opportunity to thank the outgoing mayor for his 7 years of service as mayor and the 17 years he has given to the borough and his residents as an elected politician. In line with the council's constitution, the statutory deputy mayor, Councillor Antoinette Bramble, will continue to act in the mayor's place for as long as necessary. A mayoral election is likely to take place in the coming weeks and it will provide more information. I'll read that again. A mayoral election is likely to take place in the coming weeks and I will provide more information as soon as I'm able to. Now, Glanville's letter of resignation so there is no access to Glanville's letter of resignation as accessible on the Hackney Council website. We shall be talking more about the mayor and the mayor system in due course. Now, remember the piece in the Morning Star, the weekend edition of the Morning Star, which is headed The Anti-Semitism Labour Controversy, Important Victory by Ken Livingston Livingston and Pamela Bromley. The actual significance of that whole settlement is the evidence that the equalities and human rights corruption is a corrupt racist outfit and it should be disbanded. And the fact that the so-called EHRC has capitulated to Ken Lyings to Livingstone proves once again the idiocy of Trevor terrible mental slaves Phillips and the racist corruption of Hetty Harman. The racist creep and criminal Hetty Harman was the one that drove the move to appoint Trevor Terrible Phillips to the post of chair of the then Commission for Racist Enslavement, which was a Trojan horse process whereby she, Hetty Harman, wanted to end all traces of opposition to racism altogether. And the fact that the EHRC has been exposed as an instrument of anti Palestinian racists is all too clear and obvious. There is nothing, there is absolutely nothing in the statement printed by the Morning Star and given the byline to Ken Lyings to Livingstone there is absolutely no sign there that Ken Lyings to Livingstone wants to engage in fighting racism at all. Now, the Sunday Times has got the entire front page splash devoted to this heading: accused Russell Brand, the sex predator who hid in plain sight. Now, first of all, I have to say that the coverage by the rest of Fleet Street, which in the main actually features the bad event, bad brand. We call this Russell and insert the word bad in between the Russell and brand and make it Russell bad brand. What on earth did Jemima Goldsmith see in this criminal for having any contact with him, let alone a relationship with him, lasting more than a year? That question I shall leave there hanging. And the Sunday Times is really going to town. And this investigation is really being given serious space by the Sunday Times. And there is a quote from the woman victim of of the bad brand who was raping her, and she says, I had to punch him hard to get off me. He didn't care about hurting me. This criminal, and that is the investigation pages 2, and then it continues to the next pages where there is a feature from Essex to Hollywood to social media messiah, a life of reinvention. And there is, of course, the remnant of this story about the Chinese spy at Westminster. Starmer transformed the party machine, but his number 10 policies are still in disguise. So the picture of Starmer, well, there is a caricature of Starmer, and the disguise is, I think, an allusion to Tony Blair. And the actual picture at the bottom is of Angela Rayner. Last Sunday, the usual outlet didn't have the Sunday Times. So I had to travel across East London until I found the Sunday Times and was able to keep in touch with the records. There is this piece about the death of a child, that death of a teenager. Our daughter died from sepsis after a rugby tackle. NHS staff didn't listen. And there is another piece of the world news, death by nitrogen. And the news review has got continuation of the investigation that is taking place quite seriously in a lot of the media about Elon Musk. And this one is headed Inside Musk's Mind Palace. It is quite clear that Elon Musk is a danger to a lot of things that have been created with social kind of relevance over the years. There are problems with these social platforms, but the way that he has been messing up the Twitter account is quite alarming. Now, there is a piece about the Yorkshire Ripper, and it is headed "Stalked by the Yorkshire Ripper, ignored by police." So, what do you see in the admission in the media? And there is this continuation of this bastard boy, this fucking bastard, Matthew Saeed. This shit. This is a born bastard. This bastard is a different version of the mental slave. because he doesn't come across as being brazenly corrupt. He kind of tickles. He tickles. He tickles his masters and mistresses. Now, this is Mathusaid, whose bastardness is based on the fact that he has got a Pakistani father and a white mother. Just like Hanif, the criminal Qureshi, has got a Pakistani father and a white mother. These are symptoms of the disease. So we shall come to the disease in due course, the details of the disease. We shall go back to Russell Brand in a minute. And then we shall be talking about Rishi Sank Sunak, who is a complete and utter crook. Rishi Sank Sunak is, of course, a mental slave, but it disguises that. Now, the main description underneath the main splash heading on the front page of the Sunday Times says 4 women say they were assaulted by the comedian. One claims she was raped. Another of the women says she was groomed at the age of 16 after Brand picked her up while she shopped. Now, all the denials that this criminal, Russell Bad Brand, is being quoted as making are completely dismissible lies. Just one name rejects all these lies as lies, which is Andrew Sachs. Andrew Sachs was a grandfather whose daughter had been raped, effectively raped. And Brand telephoned Andrew Sachs' number and boasted, effectively boasted. Now, we don't know all the details of the contents of the communications, but we can add two and two and two and two together. And you can deduce and you can conclude that he boasted that he had raped Andrew Sachs' granddaughter. Even if he didn't use the word raped, everything, the style, the manner, the contents of the phone calls that he and the evilness Jonathan Ross made suggest that they were boasting of Andrew Sachs' granddaughter being raped by them, or sexually abused and violated. Now, that phone call was not something that anyone else arranged for Russell Badbrand. He was the one who actually made that phone call. So he can't blame that somebody else made him do it. He is the one who had done the raping and the illicit sex with the granddaughter of Andrew Sachs. So let's say that that is the proof that Russell Brand is a sexual abuser and a rapist and an immoral one at that. The fact that he says that his father took him to Thailand when he was a teenager and introduced him, that Russell Bad Brand, to a prostitute in Thailand. What is the point that he's making there? He's not making a moral case, is he? Although the suggestion might be that he is making the moral case that he was made immoral by his own father. Well, this is unspeakable, unheard of depravity on the part of his father. And all the other kind of contacts with other people he has had add up to make a profile of a very bad, sick, immoral individual, which raises the question, how then is a criminal like him able to, quote, attract as many followers as he has attracted apparently to his social contact, social media contact? What are those people? Who are those people? Etc., etc., etc. We shall be talking about Russell Brand in the next part because we are ending this particular introductory edition right now because we need to spend a lot more time in the next edition than we would otherwise.